Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland. Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today I've got Ben Erwin with me. Ben, how we doing?
Doing great, Brett. Thanks for having me.
Connecticut. You're out in Connecticut. Who are we rooting for? What's our team or teams?
We're Yankees, Giants, Knicks, but we're really just a diehard Ohio State Buckeye fan. So that's what we really care about here.
Did you go to the Ohio State University?
I did not. My dad's family has been in Columbus for generations. So when I was born, I didn't have a choice. It was scarlet and gray or get out of the house.
I was in Columbus. I played golf over there and on a little trip, and I didn't know it was called T-Tun, T-T-U-N, and I see it in all these little places. I'm like, what is T-T-U-N? So I finally asked my server. I'm like, what is this? She's like, the team up north, and it still didn't click, right? And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, Michigan. You can't even say the name in that town.
They cross out the M's during rivalry week. It's serious business, but you must have had a nice time. There's a lot of good golf in Columbus.
It was amazing. Got to play Muirfield Village, and which was a treat, and something I'll remember for a long time. It was pretty cool. Well, you are this visionary CEO of Charitybuzz. You joined them in 2008. You've spearheaded efforts that have generated over $500 million in incremental funds for over 5,000 charities. And the CEO has led the company to achieve a 2.5x increase in revenue while successfully transforming it to a profitable enterprise, man. So that's some great stuff. But before we get started, what has helped make you the man that you are today?
Ooh, good question. Loaded question. Lots of things. My family, my friends, just the values that all of that have instilled in me, and like a really good group of people who hold me accountable to stick to those values and not waver too far off course. So I've been lucky. I had a great upbringing. I've got a great family. I now have a wonderful wife, kids, and I've kind of extended that through my friend circle. Most of my best friends are still people I grew up with, and I've been lucky to attract a very similar caliber of person into my business. So I'm a big believer in you are who you surround yourself with. So I take it really seriously.
I like it. Tell us a little bit about Charitybuzz. What is that, and how are you guys serving and helping people?
Yeah, so the best way to think about Charitybuzz is a destination to live out your wildest dreams and support a great cause at the same time. So we specialize in offering up exclusive and unique experiences to the leading people, places, events across the world. So the idea is we need to go out and compel people to give more money to charity outside of the traditional solicitation you'll see in the mail, online, on TV. But how do we do that? So we're able to do it by offering up people opportunities they never thought were possible. We excite them with the chance to check off a bucket list opportunity, and we incentivize them by displaying that the funds they will spend to have this awesome time are going to go and support a really worthy cause. And it's more necessary now than ever because we're seeing a downtick in the amount of money being donated to charity. So it's pretty clear that we got to, across society, get more innovative and think about how can we inspire more giving, because we believe that a world where more money is donated to charity is just better for everyone. I can't quantify that for you. I can't tell you exactly how that looks, but it's just a simple belief that helps drive everything we do.
Yeah. So an example, maybe I'm gonna make something up in my mind. So the Masters, right, coming up here in a couple of months. Is an experience like that? Hey, I'm gonna go to the Masters. I'm gonna get to go to the a certain spot. I'm gonna go to a certain home. Get backstage passes type stuff. Is that what we're talking about? And then the cost is this, and then we add more to the top of that to then go to charity, and then I have an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, it could be a variety of things, and a lot of them are situated around really in demand or large scale events. But it could be everything from having dinner with Julia Roberts to getting to play a top 10 golf course in the country that's on your bucket list, to being able to sit down and have a meal with the CEO of a Fortune 100 company and learn about their success, perhaps do some networking. We've offered up the chance to appear as an extra in major motion pictures. We even had the chance for really popular influencers to follow you on social media. So it's this like incredibly wide catalog of opportunities, because we're constantly thinking, what can we carve out or create that would appeal to our registered community of customers and compel them to give more. And then we work, whether it's with our charities, to get these experiences donated. In some cases, we'll work with vendors or other brands to put a couple components together that mirrors more of the example you just mentioned, and kind of everything in the middle. We're just constantly like moving in every direction and going as fast as we can.
That's so cool. So we made changes from a podcast to just me negotiating and trying to figure out a way to get to go play Augusta National. How are we going to make that happen?
We could talk about that offline. You're going to have to be very generous.
Exactly. Going to have to write a big check.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what got you into that? Like, what'd you do beforehand that led you into doing this? Because it sounds like that's a great, it's a great time, right? You're creating amazing experiences for people that everybody leaves happy and somebody's been impacted as well.
Yeah. So my whole life before I went to college, I was going to be a lawyer. That was just the plan. Everyone told me you should be a lawyer. I studied pre-law, political science at George Washington. And then I met a bunch of lawyers, and coincidentally, they talked me out of becoming a lawyer. So then I figured, well, what am I going to do? So the gift of gab and just engaging with people has always been really interesting to me. So I took a sales job at a financial consulting firm. And I remember it really vividly. I was sitting in the office really late one night. It was a really intense job. And I was thinking to myself, I asked myself two questions. The first, if you weren't doing this job right now, would it matter? Like, would anything be different? And number two, if this company or this service you're selling was no longer available, would it really negatively impact anyone's life? And the answer to both of them was a pretty quick no. And that was kind of the moment I said, I got to get out of here and go find something where the answer to both of those questions is yes. So the next role after that was I worked for Callaway Golf. Sounds like we are both been bitten by the golf bug pretty good.
Yep.
And so that was a passion of mine, and it was really fun. But it still didn't give me the fulfillment that I needed. So then I went on, a journey of what do I want to do? Where do I want to go? And I kind of fell into Charitybuzz when it was just an idea and had no real vision or strategy. And it checked both of those boxes. For-profit business, room for real growth, serving a market that's very underserved. And I just fell in love with it. And like fast forward 15 years later, I'm still here. We've grown it to a pretty significant level. But there's a lot more to go. And I'm still really passionate because the answer to those questions is yes. Like, I know what I've done here, and I know exactly who it's benefited. And we've raised hundreds of millions of incremental dollars for charity. So a world without Charitybuzz is a world where that money never makes its way to these worthy organizations. And that's what keeps me going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what's most exciting for you when you think about the day you get up, you get going? What are you fired up to get in the office to go do every day?
Yeah. So, first is, I mentioned before, just the people that I work with. They keep me on my game. They motivate me, and I feel very accountable to them. But I'd say overall, it's this larger mission we're on. So there's a couple really frightening stats that really suggest we need more companies like ours. One is they started to measure the percentage of GDP that was donated to charity in the United States back in the 70s, and it's never changed, never statistically deviated from about 2%. So all this gab about we're the most philanthropic generation, no, we're more charitable than the last, it hasn't showed up in the relative amount of money making its way to charity, yet the number of charities has grown by 40x. So how can they get the funding they need to solve all these complex problems? The answer is they can't. And the second is, in 22 and 23, the amount of money donated to charity in this country was down year over year when adjusted for inflation. And that's really, really scary in 23 when we had really strong markets. And there's a direct correlation to S&P 500 and amount of money being donated to charity. So like that's the problem I'm really interested in solving is, again, if we believe if more money goes to charity and they can help cure cancer, reform education, save the environment, feed the homeless, you name it, then we got to figure out how to get more money over there. And it's going to require us all to think about charities differently. It's not the place that gets your spare change. It's not the place where you find a couple dollars at the end of the year and just give away and not think about it. We have to invest in these organizations if we want to expect them to solve these problems. There's 1 or 2 lines in our tax code that separates a for-profit business and a nonprofit business. And we have taken those 2 lines in our tax code to treat them completely different. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And so we're on a mission to figure out all the different ways we can help get these things more aligned and more empowered.
Do you find that you think it maybe is that way, hadn't changed since the 70s? Because I know myself as a business owner, the calls come in nonstop, right? Or the mailers. I mean, it's just the ask for money never stops. And do you think that people are just tired of that? Do you think there's more charities, so they're giving less to some? Like, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of things. That's definitely one. And how do you know which is the best charity to give the money to solve or cure or support what you care about? The answer is you don't. There's no centralized place to say, this is the best organization focused on providing youth development services in New York City. Doesn't exist. So no one is educated enough to say, I care about this cause. This is the organization that is going to do the best job, unless you're really, really wealthy and you have a team of philanthropic advisors. The other part is, if you think about it, the number becomes less surprising when you observe that there has been very little evolution in fundraising. You getting the mailers as a business owner to your home, that's been happening since the 70s. Nothing's changed other than maybe the graphics are a little nicer and the paper is a little thicker. So there hasn't been a tremendous amount of innovation or evolution in how we're doing fundraising, because it all still comes back to, hey, give me money. Hey, donate monthly. Hey, support this campaign. So it's the same issue I was referencing earlier. When you get asked to invest in a business, you get compelled. There's an ROI, and then there's a commitment that I will give you money, and then I get you have to close the loop with me. You have to tell me what this investment did. In the charitable world, it's thanks for the money. We'll talk to you again in 3 months and ask for more of it. So it's clear that if we want to see that 2% change, we have to really start thinking about fundraising in the entire sector differently, or we shouldn't expect anything to change.
Are you seeing the many 501c3s out there changing? And the reason I asked, so my wife and I, we started a charity called Swing for Hope in 2007. We help families that have been struck with cancer, and then our local Siteman Cancer Center here. But are you seeing that those charities, 501c3s like ours, little compared to some of these big things like the American Cancer Society, right? Are they doing things differently now, or are they all still doing the same thing, right? We're all having golf tournaments. We're all having whatever. What can we do differently to make a bigger impact?
We've seen the most progress with organizations that are run or have boards comprised of business leaders. So people who take more of the for-profit methodologies and they apply them to solve the problems that these charities are facing. The best example I have is we do a lot of work with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and we have done a lot of our own evaluation through a third party, and they are probably, if not the best, one of the best organizations in the health or disease category. Up until a year ago, the CEO was from the biotech industry. The COO was previously the head of stores for Gap. These were for-profit, successful business people who went on to take on a new challenge. And they said what I think is the easiest, most distilled version of what I'm trying to say is, we resent the term nonprofit of the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. We view ourselves as a for-profit organization. Just so happens our shareholders are people and families affected by blood cancer. We come to work every day to maximize value for our shareholders. Like, capitalism wins every time. It's undefeated. Capitalism is the strongest force in the history of the modern world. We need to point it more at this other sector and figure out all of the ways to leverage it as a vehicle for good. And we're seeing success, but it's not widespread enough because there's still this antiquated view on what a charity should be. The CEO shouldn't make any money. We're going 100% of every dollar needs to go straight to the cause. That doesn't make sense. I don't think people understand what that means. But then we're going to hold them to this high expectation of they have to solve all these problems. Like, it's incongruent. It doesn't make sense. And that's really what needs to change if we want to see some real transformation in the sector.
Yeah. How's the transparency in your world work? What can charities do better there?
I think they need to lead with impact. So, I mean, there's a lot of transparency around their financials because they all have to file a 990 tax return, so you can see how much money they spend. But like, what if the way that you evaluated how you invested in stocks was just based on a financial statement? You would have never invested in Amazon 15 years ago. They were losing money. So I think the ones that can quantify their impact is where we're seeing the most amount of success, where it's like, hey, donate $1,000 and that will directly feed 1,000 families for a week. Now you can really understand that, like, my money is going to do this very specific thing, and then close the loop with me. In 3 months, say, hey, you know what? We actually found out a way that $1,000 fed 1,100 families because we scaled our infrastructure and we were able to lock in a deal with a food provider and we used technology, and now our impact has increased. Like, that's the way we have to think about it. I don't care how much your CEO makes. If your CEO is making 5 times as much as the other CEO, but he's delivering 25 times the amount of impact, pay him more.
Right. Yeah, I like that. What do you think about, so you talk about your Ohio State Buckeyes, that's the best team money could buy, right? As they would say in football this year, right? I think they had the largest payroll. What do you think the NIL is going to do? I mean, that's a whole nother podcast we could talk about, but NIL versus charity. And here's what I mean, right? So these big corporations now are going to get behind this and they're going to write a check to Ohio State, or I got a son at Mizzou, right? They're going to write these checks. My fear is for the NIL and for the college sports is that the big companies are going to get tired of that one day. That coolness is going to be done, especially if we're not winning national championships, they go away. But what impact do you think the NIL is going to have on charity work or charity donations over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
That's a good question. I mean, it's tough to say because there needs to be so much work done to, I think, put some guardrails on NIL. The rules are different state by state. Some collectives can be set up as 501c3s. Some cannot be set up as 501c3s. What's the oversight on how the funds are being allocated? Like, is it ultimately just a pass through to be able to give a defensive end the money they need to be able to transfer schools? So I think they have to separate them because we don't want there to be the disguise of money going to charity that's not actually being put to work to fulfill a real mission. So I think what we have to make sure doesn't happen is that the NIL is turned into a vehicle to turn charitable dollars into salaries for college football players. And just treat both of them differently. Because we know the NIL isn't going anywhere. We know the money's only going to increase. They're going to keep consolidating these conferences. They're going to ink TV deals that are going to blow all of our minds. So, like, the money's there to be able to pay the players, but we have to do it in a better way because, I mean, right now, 10, 15 schools can, like, really compete based on the amount of money they have. That's not, to me, the spirit of college sports. Like, college sports is so much more dynamic than that. And that's what I fear about what the future of this looks like is they're just college football programs are just turning into businesses. The head coach is now the CEO. It's just it's different, and I don't think it sustains in a positive way.
Yeah, I think private equity and venture capitalists is going to start owning those teams too. Are you on that bandwagon, or what do you think there?
100. I was actually talking about this last night with a couple of really good friends of mine. Yeah, private equity is going to get in there. They're already starting. Hedge funds and private equity are already figuring out ways in, and then who knows how it's going to happen. That's kind of the problem with all sports right now, is whether it's private equity, sovereign wealth funds, like the money's coming in, and my concern is that money is going to jeopardize the integrity of the product that we all love. Yeah. And what's that going to do to the fan experience, and then ultimately the future of the sport?
Yeah. And that's what's, basketball season now, right? It's like you get to know these teams, and then it's like you just start all over every year. Like when I was a kid, I grew up an Illinois fan. You had Kendall Gill and Kenny Battle and these guys, and you watch these kids play for 4 years, and you became fans. And then now it's like, well, it's just a new kid next month, or next year is going to be on the team. And I think that's tough too for us as fans.
Yeah, and then another fifth-year senior comes in to be your quarterback next year. There's no affiliation to the school. Yeah, they may have even been like at a rival school the year before, and then you're rooting for them. Like, you can't really get behind somebody who doesn't like embody what you love. So, yeah, I agree. They're just mimicking professional sports organizations, but it's even crazier than professional sports because there's no contracts. We were talking about this last night. Signing day doesn't matter anymore. Someone's going to sign today, transfer tomorrow, get poached the next day. Like, there's no commitments made to anyone that stick. So it's just like it's a revolving door of players.
I think the accountability factor is important too, right? Because now all of a sudden you're my athlete, right? I'm the coach. I'm getting in your grill and getting all over you. And it's like, well, I don't like that. He yelled at me too much. He challenged me. He held me accountable. I'm just going to leave and go over there. And that worries me as well, man. There's a lot of pros to it, but I think there's more cons than anything. I know this isn't a podcast about NIL, but that's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think my point is it's coming. It's not going to stop. So, like, some group needs to come together and figure out, like, how do we put the right guardrails on this so it doesn't blow up in the way that it sounds like me and you are concerned it will.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to us about your habits, man. It's obviously to you have a wife, a kid, kids. You have a business. You got your hobbies, the things that you do in the world. How do you stay a student of the game, but also take care of yourself to bring the best energy every day?
Yeah, health and exercise are important to me. So it's like, it's my time. So I need something to train for. Like, I need a goal to be able to stay consistent with that. So I started running half marathons a few years ago. So because a regimen and a routine are really important to me. I'm trying to prioritize sleep, but quite frankly, over the past couple months, I've been really bad at it. So that becomes a really big focus of mine, eating healthy. But I think it's the problem that most people in our positions constantly struggle with is, like, how do you achieve balance, right? How are you able to do all the things you need to do, your personal interests, your professional responsibilities and aspirations, and then most importantly, your commitment to your family. And I have young kids, and how do you fit it all in and remain present throughout all of those different stages? And I'd be lying to you if I said I've figured it out. I'm trying to figure it out every day, but things like better sleep, eating well, and for me, it's just exercising. And exercising for me is so much more about getting my head clear. It's almost like a meditative a moment for me than like looking a certain way. So I've built the habit there where now if I don't get it, I feel off. So now it's almost like a healthy addiction. And that's probably the most important thing I do, to be able to fuel all of the energy and time I have to spend across so many different places.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the exercise stuff? Like, what are you doing to enjoy it? Like, what exactly do you do for exercise?
Yeah, sometimes I like running.
Okay.
I like the idea of, like, when I got forced into running a half marathon when I wasn't a big runner. So then you sign up for a training plan. And it's basically like, if you commit to doing this thing every other day for 3 months, you will be able to run that race. And when you start, it's like, I can't run 13 miles. And then you start doing it,
awful.
you prove to yourself the importance of discipline and the importance of consistency. And that, I believe, is a tremendous lesson to be able to apply to a lot of other facets of life. One thing I need to do a better job of is mobility and pliability. Again, I'm a big golfer, and the body doesn't work the same way it used to.
Yeah.
So, like, one of my other big goals is to get my golf game to a very specific place, and I need my body to be ready to do it. So that's definitely not enjoyable for me, but I just remind myself, well, if you do this more, you'll be able to maybe go out and hit the ball like that. So keep the goal in mind and just get through it.
I got your workout for you, man. If you've not heard of this, have you heard of Golf Forever? The exercise? Yeah. Go online. It'll be the best 100 whatever it is, $200 you'll spend today. It's I actually had the guy on my podcast that invented it, Pete Holman, and I have it. I've had it for probably 2 or 3 years now. It's basically a stick, and it's got 2 golf grips. They're a little bigger than a normal golf grip, but golf grips on each end, and then you got a band that you wrap it either through a door jamb or around your thing at home, like your weight stuff at home, and it's all around flexibility, mobility, pliability, all that stuff. So it should just be called liveforever.com, because what it does is it's stretching you and getting you stronger with these little exercises of stuff. So check out golfforever.com. I don't get paid anything for that. I just have it and I use it. Yeah.
You just got to sell.
I'll call Pete and see if I can get a part of that commission or something.
Yeah, get an affiliate code and send it to me.
Yeah, right. What about reading, stuff like that for your staying again a student of the game? Is that important to you? Do you do much of that?
Yeah, I listen more than I read. Just, I have a lot of time where I'm commuting or running or walking. So it's a combination of books, business books, which I find hard to get through, to be honest. So there's only a few that have really kept my attention. But I listen to a lot of business podcasts, right? Like founder stories, just learning from the people that have done it. I just got really obsessed with Acquired. I don't know if you've ever heard them, but it's like 4 to 5 hour deep dives into the most successful businesses ever made. And that type of stuff really keeps my attention. And then I read a lot of news. I'm a junkie. It's probably an unhealthy addiction, especially given a lot of things that have just been going on over the past year. But that's usually what I do before I go to bed, is I go deep into just learning everything that's happening. Go down the rabbit hole. What I've been doing recently is I try to read something right in the middle, and then I read something that's left leaning, and I read something that's right leaning. And then I try to form my own opinion, because I'm increasingly concerned about the bias in our media, and the fact that most people don't realize what they're reading is just telling them what they want to hear. Yeah. And then they're telling me what's real, and I'm pushing back quite a bit.
Well, it's the algorithm, right? I mean, the longer you watch this video, the more you're going to see more videos just like it, and it's confirmation bias, right? And it's awful, man, on both sides. It's awful. It is awful. So I try not to watch or listen to that crap, but you get caught going down the rabbit holes. But what do you have any of the risks that you took in your career that you look back, you say, man, that was crazy, but I'm glad I did it?
Yeah, I mean, one was when I first found Charitybuzz. Again, it was just an idea. It was not a business. The person who had the idea had just an idea. And when I first got really engaged, the only business that we would do was in the spring and fall, because that's when big charity fundraising season is. And I started in the spring and started building momentum. And then he sat me down and said, hey, this is awesome, but like, we don't have any money. So until October, I think this was June, we don't have any money. So we can't pay you. Obviously, we expect you to go find something else. But if you want to work for free, obviously we'll take you. And I went back to my childhood home and I was talking to my dad. And he just said, hey, like, what does your gut say? I was like, I really want to do this. This checks the boxes. He's like, well, hey, for the next few months, you can live here. So you're not going to really have expenses, and go chase what you believe in. And if it doesn't work out, you won't have any regrets. So I just remember that conversation vividly, because my dad remains like my number one mentor and sounding board. And that was probably the biggest risk I took. There's been more smaller ones along the road, but that's always like the best example that pops into my head.
Yeah. It's funny talking about your dad and that conversation. I remember my dad when I was at a financial firm, started my own firm almost 11 years ago, and with a partner of mine, Tim. I remember calling my mom and dad, and my dad saying that I almost gave him a heart attack, right? He's like, how could you do that? But then it was the support, right? The support's there, and that's critically important. It's key. When you think about the future here, AI and all the stuff that's going on there, where do you see that playing a role, if at all, in your world?
It's going to play. It already is playing a huge role. So we're a little, I think, ahead of the curve, at least in our small section of the world of looking at redundant tasks, repetitive activities, and how those can be optimized through generative AI. I'm actually in the midst of learning quite a bit about a lot of the best practices and also how to remain responsible when using it. But it's an efficiency machine. If you know how to use it the right way. I think the problem right now is what's interesting is younger professionals are the ones that are the most hesitant to use it. So you're seeing more adoption actually as it skews older. And I think it's just a fear that either this is going to take my job, so therefore I don't like it, or a misunderstanding of how to use it. So like you can't have these generative AI models recreate your tone, your values, and your personality. But you can feed a lot of that into it, and then it can help you do things faster so that you can spend more time doing strategic work and leveraging your expertise. And that's how we're thinking of it. We're a relatively low margin business because we're in the business of giving money to charity. So any help we can get to just optimize and streamline operations, we're going to take advantage of. And we've already gotten a couple nice wins under our belt.
Nice. That's awesome. You know, it's crazy. I had my blood work done recently, and I got it back today, and I just copied, edit, paste, and put it right into Chat GPT, and it was amazing, man, how all the stuff it told me. And then it's like my cholesterol it's not high like right when you get on medicine, but it's ticking up a little bit, you know, and I'm like, hey, what's the game plan for my lipid panel? And I said, give me a month plan broken down by day, and it just immediately, I'm like, dude, that is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, because what would you have done before that? You would have used probably the internet. You would have done a lot of searching, and you would have been able to put that together in, I don't know, 2-3 hours, but you did it in 5 minutes. You probably got exactly what you needed. So then you're able to spend more time doing other things. That's the beauty of it.
It's incredible. Best golf trip in America?
Well, let me give you 2.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously the one that everyone needs to go on in their life is they need to go to Monterey. They just have to do it. It's as good as you think it is, especially if you get a Bluebird day on Pebble, but you can't overlook Spy, which first 6-7 holes may be the best 6-7 holes I played in golf. But just the whole experience, the hospitality, the food, Carmel, the tap room, but that's really expensive. Mm-hmm. I think per dollar, the best golf trip in America is Pinehurst. That's a special place in my heart. I go there every year with my buddies. It's just like, if you love golf, go to Pinehurst, because there's nothing to do but play golf, talk about golf, be around people obsessed with golf. And I think Pinehurst number 2. I argue myself with this a lot. If it's not the best course in the country, it's number 2 or 3. Like, it's that good, because if you've got your game, you can score. If you're half a millimeter off, you get absolutely destroyed. So it's one of the best challenges I've ever played in the game of golf.
Let me paint a picture for you. You're 1 under going into hole 17 at Pinehurst, number 2. You hit one a little right. You blade it over the green. You hit it on. You 3-putt. And then you go bogey number 18 to shoot 3 over. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really bad in the moment, but as I reflect back, I'm probably feeling pretty good about that score overall. That's a good score at number 2.
That's what happened to this guy in September of last year. I went out. I played 2, 4, 7, 10, and then the the cradle, which was awesome. Played it barefoot. Did you play it barefoot?
It's the best. Yeah. Go to the Pine Cone, get a couple drinks, just have yourself a time.
It was amazing. Have you played 10?
I got a good story. We were playing number 2. I haven't shot 3 over there. I think I shot 5 or 6 over. But we're playing against my buddy who's better than me, and it drives me crazy. And he's in that bunker on 18 that's maybe like 90 to 100 yards short. And we've got everybody's at the deuce outside. It's like a stadium crowd. And he sculls a sand wedge. And the second he sculls it, we all just scream, but not with enough reaction. It is going directly at this guy's temple. And it hits the pillar right next to his head. Makes a sound louder than you could imagine. It hit it so hard, it rolled all the way back to his feet in the bunker, and he had to hit it again.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it was millimeters from murdering someone. All in front of
that
like
thing's closer than you
people.
think, man, because you look at it on TV, when the U.S. Open was there, and then I got there, I'm like, that made that shot by Bryson DeChambeau even crazier because of how close it was.
Oh, that shot was unbelievable.
Got the construction guy, Kurt, over here giving me hell.
What's your favorite golf trip?
Pinehurst was certainly very, very special. That downtown is incredible. Just going to those little pubs there. And, I mean, just you go to the pubs and talk golf. I mean, it's just everything is right there. But Bean and Dunes was pretty awesome. We played 36 a day for 4 or 5 days. I mean, it was brutal, the walking. But the courses, we hit the absolute lottery on the weather. And it rained for one of the rounds on the last day, but it was just sunny, slight breeze, and the golf courses were great. And just it was awesome. That's where I would go. So I think the next one we're doing is Sand Valley, I believe.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've heard the Lido is as good as you want it to be.
Yeah. We'll have to check him out. Well, Ben, where do our listeners find more of you, man?
Yeah, LinkedIn's the best. If you like what you heard today, I'm going to share a lot more of it on LinkedIn all the time, so beware. But follow me, connect with me there, and if you want to drop a line and learn more about what we do, it's just ben@charitybuzz.com. Put the show name in the subject, and I'll get back to you even quicker. But we're always available to talk more about golf, about philanthropy, or about unlocking some really cool experiences for you. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome, man. Stay with me here while the screen goes dark, but thanks so much, man, for being on the Circuit of Success. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, man.